I feel that I held her back. And have now made learning to read a very difficult thing. Hey guys, Editing Ashley here. I just want to say really quick before I get into this video that this is not a curriculum review video. I am going to be talking about quite a few programs, but I would not say that this is like a thorough review of any of them. It's really just sort of like a chatty video about how they worked for our family and my struggling reader. Okay, thanks. Hello YouTube friends, Ashley here with Crazy Brave Homeschool. If you are new to my channel, I am a homeschooling mom to 2 kids, a second grader and a TKer, and this is our 3rd year homeschooling. I am very excited to shoot today's video, not so much for the content, and you'll see why, but because as you see, if you've been with me for a while, I'm in a new part of my house because I have the entire house to myself, which never happens. My kids started an outdoor program on Thursdays. It's the whole day, and this is just like incredible. I don't think I've ever had the house to myself for 7 hours ever, since becoming a mom, as most of you homeschool moms can relate to, I'm sure. So this just feels really good, and I'm glad that I saved this video for a day when I have like so much space and peace, because this topic is hard for me. We're talking about my daughter's reading journey, my second grader. This video does have the potential to be a little chatty. I do want to talk a little bit about where my daughter's reading journey started and why. And then I'm going to go into a bit about our charter school and just like kind of the emotional roller coaster that this journey has been for me. But I'm going to try to keep this video as short as I can. So anyway, my daughter is 7 years old. She's a very young second grader. You know, it's unfortunate her birthday falls within the frame of her grade level. But I really wish in hindsight we had started her later. And in a way we kind of did. So here's how our homeschool started. We decided to homeschool, and when my daughter turned 5, which was end of July, I thought, okay, so this is technically her kindergarten year, but I had gotten really wrapped up in the unschooling movement. I had read tons of books, listened to a lot of podcasts, and I don't even know exactly how it happened, because I do remember when I heard about unschooling, my first reaction was, that is not for us. Like I'm sort of an anarchist at heart, but that's way too alternative for us. But then, I don't know, like something about it spoke to my heart. And so I kind of got wrapped up in the whole philosophy of unschooling, being that it's very child-led, that the children choose what they want to learn about. And as a person who grew up in the public school system and did not feel very strong in my academics and thought that maybe I could have done better had I had more freedom to exercise my interests and passions, these principles really spoke to me. My husband was not totally on board. I mean, he definitely agreed with a lot of the principles, but he was like, but I still want you to teach her how to read and write and do math. And I was like, yeah, I think we can make it fun, you know? When kindergarten rolled around and she turned 5, I really wanted to take an unschooling approach. He liked it, but also wanted me to make sure that we were teaching her how to read and write and all that. So I put together a little thing, kind of our own DIY curriculum. My first video on this channel is about that. I believe it's my first one. And anyway, the first week, it was really rocky. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was like expecting her to just like write. And I don't know, like I had no idea what I was doing. And I used that as an excuse to be like, she's too young. Like she is just a kid. We shouldn't be pushing academia on her right now. I think that we should unschool this year and just come back to this in 1st grade. Because in my mind, I was like, isn't 1st grade when kids learn to read anyway? And you know, this may be an argument why people are like, people shouldn't homeschool because they don't know what they're doing. I don't know, I don't like totally agree with that, but I'm just saying in my experience, no, I did not do a lot of research on education before deciding to homeschool my child. I did a lot of research on not educating. Anyway, so we basically unschooled her for kindergarten, and we had a great year. I introduced her to some letters. We did that kind of letter work once in a while. She was really good at math because she loved money. And she's just a total naturalist at heart. So lots of time outside, very prone to life sciences. We had a great year. But when first grade rolled around, we decided to join a charter school in California. I had heard that this charter, because I was a little worried about being an unschooler, joining a publicly funded charter school. But I had met people in our community who were like, oh, there's tons of unschoolers who are in this charter. They're really lax about their expectations of your kids. They do have to take, 2 reading and math assessments a year, but like the test scores don't matter. I hated those assessments when I was young. The standardized testing I did very poorly at. So I really didn't love that idea, and I kind of figured maybe we could opt out anyway. But we joined the charter mostly because of the extravagant funding that it came with. We're talking thousands of dollars per child. And so I figured this could pay for her extracurriculars, curriculum, really fun learning resources, So we joined, and she took the pre-reading assessment and obviously did very poorly. She was really great at math. Which I will say, there is something to be said for unschooling. A kid's strengths are somewhat obvious, I think, when you just allow them to learn naturally, and her math was an example of that. So then I didn't really care, though, about that first assessment. I'm like, yeah, I know. We didn't teach her to read last year. So we started her on Blossom and Root, and you're going to say, wait a minute, that's not a language or a phonics program. And you're right. Blossom and Root, level 1, so first grade, language arts, is more of a literature-based curriculum. This is like some of the wordplay that you would do, but this is not a phonics program. And I was looking at these words going, okay, well, we can't really do much with this because she doesn't know how to read yet. So I'm like, oh, okay, so I need to get her a phonics program. We were about a week into first grade when I purchased Simply Charlotte Mason Playing with Letters and Sounds. I think this is better. I had researched, when we decided that we were going to do some formal homeschooling, I really liked I liked the Charlotte Mason philosophy. I liked how gentle it was. I liked that she actually didn't really encourage you to start teaching your kids how to read until they were 6. And my daughter had just turned 6. So getting the letters and sounds was totally appropriate for her. There's a lot of Charlotte Mason, obviously you probably already know this, there's a lot of Charlotte Mason programs out there. Simply Charlotte Mason is the one I went with, and they have this delightful reading levels 1, 2, and 3. It's all game-based. So you learn your letters and your sounds with, comes with things like this, like popsicle sticks with the lowercase and uppercase letters. It comes with letter bingo. This was a huge hit. And then it comes with a lot of really beautiful letter and word cards. Each deck has a different famous piece of art on it. I really enjoyed using this program. The games and activities were all really fun. I'd say my daughter learned most of her letters and sounds. This is the teacher's guide, but it's really just a bunch of activities. So like each paragraph here is like a different activity. So it would be like one lesson would be one activity. This went over really well. My daughter loved it. Like I said, she learned most of her letters and sounds about 6 months into first grade. And in my opinion, that was great considering where we started. I'm like, oh, it only took her 6 months to learn these. This is awesome. So then I thought, okay, well, let's move on to level 2 of this since this program worked so well. I was eager because I was, you know, we have facilitators with the charter school that obviously you check in with frequently. And I wasn't getting a whole lot of pushback about where Poppy was at, but it was obvious that we were behind. And I felt kind of eager to get her reading by the end of first grade. I should have stuck with the letters and sounds longer than I did, but she was really close. She was almost all the way there. So I thought this might build her confidence and get a little bit more fun if she could actually start building words. So I got the level 2 words I can build. This is very similar to level 1 in that it comes with activities like those cards. Yeah, so it like comes with these cards and then it has all the words here. It comes with the teacher's guide, which is again, just the activity book. So it's a little bit more instructional than the first one. The first one is really just, here's an activity to do to learn sounds. It's not scripted. There's no real structure to your lesson at all. You just do the activity and learn your letters and sounds. This one has a little bit more instruction. So you review the words that you learned in the last lesson. You make, say, activity 60. We didn't even make it this far, so honestly, I should probably back up here. We only made it to about lesson 33. So for instance, lesson 10, you're introducing the bossy R by making like E-R, A-R, U-R with letter tiles. You know, explain that when R follows a vowel, it changes the sound of the vowel, okay? You're gonna practice with musical words. So this was a fun game where I taped the cards around in a circle and then the kids play musical chairs, but it's musical words. And when I stop the music and they land on a word, they have to say the word. So it's a very hands-on, physical reading program. It's a lot of activities. You are never just sitting with this material and learning how to read. It's, I guess, you know, I thought that this was going to be great for my daughter because she is so active, as you've seen in some of my videos. Okay, so then it comes with a notebook. I don't have it with me. It's stocked away in her first grade stuff. But anyway, it has a notebook where you make the letters in some creative way, like with yarn or something. And then like you would write 1 or 2 words that you learned with, say, the bossy R, like her or car. And then it might have some little quick activity for reading a couple more words. This program did not work for us. I think, like, even from the start, my daughter was not really enjoying the activities. In my opinion, and these aren't from her words, but in my opinion, they were very distracting. So now she is trying to do something very difficult by building and decoding these words. And they're telling you to like tape some words, word cards, you know, up on your garage door and take a ball and hit the ball at the word and read the word. That's not teaching reading. Like, I understand that it's great for a busybody and it could be fun if that child was taking to reading very easily, but there was no, like, even though they were introducing rules like sight words, a few sight words and phonics rules, the lessons themselves were just, they weren't specific enough. They were not instructional enough. And the activities were really, in my opinion, just a huge distraction. So around lesson 30, we capped it. I realized around then that my daughter wasn't retaining any of the words that she was learning, which was really discouraging. So this was around almost towards the end of first grade, and she wasn't reading, right? She had learned, I think honestly, she was just memorizing some of the words from this program when we would review her notebook, because they tell you to draw a little picture to help you remember what the word is. So she was just memorizing the words. She wasn't sounding them out. She wasn't like, she wasn't absorbing that rule that went with it. So I thought, okay, well, we're done with delightful reading. I need to figure something else out. And I wanted a program that had less pieces, right? Tons of pieces in those, and something that would just simplify learning to read. I also wanted something that just took down all the activity and was something where my daughter and I could just curl up on the couch and I could teach her how to read. So I did a lot of research. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I chose Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. I saw a lot of great reviews about this. I also saw some not so great reviews. But I thought I like that this is just a book. It's not a bunch of distracting pieces and games. I also liked that it was going to be reviewing letter sounds in the beginning parts. And I loved that if you got through the book, by the end of it, she was going to be at a second grade reading level. And I was like, oh my gosh, this would be perfect. Like, a lot of people said that they kind of flew through this book. Obviously, they didn't have struggling readers like me. And that the lessons were under 20 minutes. And that we could just sit on the couch together under a blanket and get through this book, and then she would be caught up. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, she's going to be at second grade reading level, you know, by the time second grade starts. I knew that this would take us, because we were going to summer school, I knew this would take us through the rest of first grade into the summer, and that she would be all caught up. Isn't it funny how I started her out with her kindergarten year, just totally open to the idea that she would start to learn reading whenever it was natural for her. We were going to take our time. This was totally gentle. What I started to realize by the time we hit this program was it was no longer gentle. Me waiting until, and this is where I'm going to pause and get a little chatty for a minute. Me waiting until she was 6 to introduce her to letters and sounds, I thought was a very gentle approach, that a child should not, you know, have any kind of formal learning until they had enjoyed a bulk of their childhood, or at least of their younger years, right? When she was 2 and 3, she learned the alphabet when she was 3. She went to some little preschool for a short time, and she learned how to write her name. But we weren't singing the alphabet every day. I didn't have like ABC letter books that we looked at. I really had a chip on my shoulder, something about it. And I was just like, all of these testimonies I had heard from self-led learners was that children will learn to read when they're ready, which still, you know, I still really do believe is true. But that children can teach themselves how to read. That I do not so much agree with for every child. I think that's probably a select few. And that really it should just be their choice when they are ready for it. My daughter was showing all sorts of signs of wanting to learn how to read. It started with writing. She really wanted to learn how to write, so she was writing the letters that she knew all the time in her kindergarten unschooling year. I thought that was fantastic. I was so proud of that was just natural to her, and it wasn't my idea. We read together all the time. Once we started getting into more reading in first grade, she really, you know, was showing an interest in wanting to learn how to read. So the interest was there. But I don't think just because a child has interest to read that it is going to come naturally to them, or that they can teach themselves how to do it. I was realizing by the time we hit this that learning how to read is really tough for some kids. I'm gonna get to the rest of the programs that we tried, but I'm just gonna stay on this note while I'm here. I enrolled my son, who's in TK, with the same charter school. So I'm just for a minute here skipping ahead, you know, 3 or 4 months. I only enrolled him because of the funding. You know, coming from an unschooling mindset, it seemed a little silly to enroll a 4-year-old in school. But my son also shows a lot of interest in academia, specifically math. And so I figured he would probably enjoy it. Of course, he had to have an assessment. And when he took his assessment, he did very, very well. And I sat there with him while doing it. Just being like, I'm so sorry we have to do this, kiddo, because he didn't want to do it. But he did really well, and I didn't really care. Like, I know what he knows. Same with my daughter. When she took her first grade assessment in the beginning of the year, I didn't really care because I knew what she knew, and I was okay with it. I was proud of her. And so my son, when his facilitator is, raving about his scores and stuff, it didn't feel like really any better compared to when my daughter was failing her reading screener miserably. But what I will say is the reading and math that I'm doing with my son for TK is playful and very gentle. For 10 minutes a day, we sit on the floor with a puppet and he learns his alphabet letters and sounds. And he really enjoys it, and we make it funny. And he's learning how to read. I think the idea that I thought it would be much more gentle to not do any of it with my daughter and just let her be a kid was misled. I think that now that she has an interest in reading, I feel that I held her back and have now made learning to read a very difficult thing. I am not going to and this is sort of where this emotional roller coaster has come from, is just these up and downs of feeling like it's my fault. So that's my 2 cents about how I have changed heart about unschooling, is that there is nothing wrong, in my opinion, to sit down with your child at the age of 3 or 4 and teach them their name and the alphabet and letters and sounds and start building words in playful ways, because when they really do have that interest to read a book, it'll be much more enjoyable for them. This is not enjoyable for my daughter, and she wants to read. Let me get back to the programs here. This also did not work. We got to lesson 30 something, just like the last program. Lesson 33, same thing, isn't that funny? And we had one of the worst schooling days of our life. She doesn't really cry during school because she's super tough. I sometimes cry. I could cry right now. But it was creating a lot of disconnection between us and tension. And those are things I hate in my family. We are a very close family. And I try to be as loving and patient, of course, as any mom tries to be. But, I just realized this is going to tear us apart. So what I did try to do for about a week was I reformatted this program to be more like a Charlotte Mason approach. I'm not going to really go through what this is, but I did see a video on YouTube years ago about a Charlotte Mason teaching reading lesson that was basically like using a small group of sentences, maybe like a poem, and using your movable alphabet and going through all the words of the poem, picking out the ones that she didn't know, or in this case, we would pick out the oh God, where is it? Here. Like we would pick out, one of these paragraphs. We would go through the words she didn't know, which was a lot, and then she would have to find the word that was mixed in with all the other words. I was typing them up and cutting them out. She would find the word, she would try to memorize it with her eyes closed, and then she would try to build it from memory, and then she would write the word, and then she would find the word in the passage. I really like this method. I think it's great for sight words. But then I had someone on YouTube when I was going over how this just wasn't working. They said, have you heard of treasure hunt reading? And I hadn't. It's a free resource online. So just to give you the timeline, we are still in summer. So we are nearing the end of summer. We had been doing this like 3 days a week. She was reading. Like I do see how this book teaches kids how to read. I really do think that it can be a powerful tool. I just think that it is so repetitive. It was getting very monotonous for her. There's nothing exciting about this book. And the passages kept getting longer and longer very quickly. Like this program was moving really fast. I also had people on YouTube saying, why don't you try All About Reading? Because at that point, end of summer, I had decided to do All About Reading for my son, for the pre-reading, for his TK year. And people were saying, you should just get All About Reading 1 for your daughter, do a lot of review, build her courage. So by the time the end of her first grade year rolled around, and we had started this, she had to take her assessment, her like end of first grade assessment. She tested really high in math, so she's just naturally very good at that. And then with reading, she tested very poorly again, but I still wasn't very bothered by it. Because I was looking at these words saying, she is going to be there by the beginning of second grade. Once we get through this, she is totally going to know all those words. Like she's really not that far away from knowing those words. So I was still feeling confident, and I didn't really feel thrown by her low test scores. I still wasn't putting a lot of importance on these tests. But the idea of going that much far back with All About Reading 1, when like she really was like reading, she was doing well, but she was so frustrated and she wasn't remembering the words that she was reading. And her comprehension's typically really good, but not when it comes to reading herself. So the idea of going that far back when I knew that second grade assessment was coming up, I was just like, oh, I just want to keep going. I just want to keep pushing her a little bit. I feel like we're so close to it clicking. And I don't know where I came up with this idea that like overnight it's just going to click and she is just going to take off with reading. So I looked into treasure hunt reading. I think I looked into it that day. And by that night I had printed it off, bound it, and decided this is what we were going to do before starting All About Reading 2. I forgot to mention that. I did get All About Reading 2 for her for second grade, and assumed that she was going to be ready to start that pretty soon once we got through maybe half of this. I wasn't going to start her at the beginning of this because the beginning of this is letter sounds. And I'm like, she's already there. She doesn't need to do that. It has Treasure Hunt Reading as a free online resource. It's the Orton Gillingham approach. People had said it's very similar to All About Reading. So I'm like, okay, this is perfect. We will try this out. So I printed off just about a third of Journey 1. I was a little apprehensive about doing this because half of it is on the computer, and we had not used the computer for any kind of teaching yet. I really wanted to put that off, as long as I could. I wanted to teach her how to read, but it was becoming very unenjoyable for both of us. And when I watched the woman who's the teacher for this, these are just like video modules. Her name is Adventure Kate. And before, printing this off, I watched her first few lessons and I'm like, wow, she really knows what she's doing. Like the way that she's talking to the child is just so kind and understanding. And she was just talking about how it's so exciting that you're going to learn how to read. She's like, when I was little, and gave like a story about her own difficulty with learning how to read. She was just saying all the right things. And yeah, I definitely started crying. I'm like, wow, even this woman on these video modules is way better at this than I am. And this is exactly what Poppy needs right now. So we started this program, and she, because it was new and she didn't have to do teacher child anymore, she was excited. Sometimes it was kind of fun, where you get to like color in the ice cream cones. I really liked the way that this taught writing. It used this like sailboat approach where she talks about how, I'm probably going to butcher it, but anyway, there's a skyline, a bird line, a wind line, a water line and a fish line, and how your letters go to a certain line. And it was just like a really easy way to explain proper writing, which my daughter was definitely struggling with. So I really appreciated that. We still use those rules today when we're working on our writing. We use the rules from this program. And then at first the lessons were really simple. She'd introduce the K sound. The kid would practice writing it a lot. And then she would learn listening for the sound in a story. And then she was just practicing writing a little bit. So we did a third of Journey 1, basically the last third of it. And by the end of it, she had to read 5 little stories. And this is where it started getting tough, but she was doing it. And I was so proud of her. And after she started reading these, I think it was difficult. She wasn't necessarily enjoying it, but I was seeing her confidence go up and her interest in wanting to find some easy readers to read. So I was really feeling positive with this program through the end of the summer and then the beginning of 2nd grade. When her 2nd grade reading assessment came, which was just like the first couple weeks into the school year, I was thinking, okay, I think she might actually do okay with this. Based on the 1st grade end of year assessment, I figured that the beginning of the 2nd year would be similar to that because kids don't go to school during the summertime. So it shouldn't be expected that they should like all of a sudden be like way better readers. But what do I know? So she did her 2nd grade reading assessment and I was just shocked. Like I could not believe how difficult this assessment was. Having her read words like at one point they wanted her to read the name Eleanor, to read, 3-syllable words, to, phonics rules that she was nowhere near learning. I was so disappointed. Obviously not in her. I felt so defeated. Like 1st grade and then that summer was just so tough. And we were no closer. Our homeschool facilitator came back to us with her results that were all in red, immediate intervention needed. She said, her reading level is still at early phonics level. And I was mostly frustrated because within like a couple of weeks before that test, we were getting some easy reading books. She was really getting into them and like so proud of herself for reading these books to me and her brother and her dad. And then to take that test didn't affect her. She didn't care. But I felt that I then couldn't like properly celebrate her for how far she had come because of this stupid effing test. And so then, my son, like I said, did his assessment and did really, really well. And his teacher is just like over the moon about it. And I'm just like, so what? I hate these tests. I know where my kids are at. And I'm so proud of them for where they're at, especially from where she started, not even knowing her letters and sounds. And now she's reading. For crying out loud. It did make me wonder if we should leave the charter, because I felt like the charter was hindering me from meeting my daughter where she was at. But our homeschool facilitator just, kept telling me that they don't care about grade level, they care about progress. And as long as you were making progress, then that's great. And we were clearly making a lot of progress. I tried to put the test behind me. I really let it hit me hard. I think it just brought up memories of being a kid and doing really poorly on those tests. And I didn't want her to ever think that she was bad at this. That's not what she needs right now. Thankfully, I really don't think it affected her much. She just couldn't wait to be done. But for a few days, it put me in a hole, I'm a part of the public school system. That's how I grew up. So it's obviously the bureaucracy is ingrained in me a little bit. And as much as I try to be a rebel, this stuff still affects me. Okay, so we finished up journey 1 and then I printed off journey 2. So, you know, we were gonna do the whole thing because once you get to the end of this, it has gone over all of the rules that you need to know to start All About Reading 2. And this goes really fast. It's only, you know, journey 2 is only like 40 videos or something. And we were doing it like 4 days a week. So by around mid-October, I was thinking that we could actually start All About Reading 2. So this is great at, what is this great at? It definitely has some pros. This is great for a non-struggling reader, a reader who wants to learn how to read fast. You can just chip away and get there very quickly. But this was going too fast for her. And it didn't really have any kind of mastery or spiral approach. There was no review. You would just jump from one rule to the next. Okay, so for example, would be learning the SH sound. And then a big thing with this program is that when you learn the sound, she has to find words that start with SH in a book, like at least 5 words. I think this is hard for a kid that doesn't spend a lot of time skimming books. It's actually really hard to find some of these words. Maybe not SH. I feel like that was a little bit easier, but honestly, I had to help her because I had a hard time finding a lot of the words. And I want to keep our reading lessons to 20 minutes, definitely. But sometimes it would take 10 minutes for us to find all of the words. And then she would do some kind of activity with those words, which is just like color in the fish and then read the word, or, you know, color in the pepperoni and read the word. Fine. And then she would read a story with that new phonics rule. And then that's it. And then literally there's no review. There's no revisiting that concept. You just go on to the next one. And I haven't looked into our All About Reading much yet, you know, because we're not starting it yet. But I hope there's a lot more review, or just some kind of spiral approach, or at least a mastery approach, because there's no mastery with this either. Like, if anything, they should have 3 lessons about NG. This was a really hard one for her to learn and to remember. She doesn't remember it at all. When we see NG in books, you know, I try to give her clues like about the king. And it's a hard sound to make, you know. There's just, there was no revisiting this. You learn it once. Ultimately, this was going way too fast. We needed to slow way down. And so we recently, last week, put this down. I made the decision to order All About Reading 1. I realized this is about my daughter. This is not about her charter school. This is not about me. I was making it about me too. Like, we should be further along by now. I'm her teacher. Feeling that guilt for starting her so late. I mean, and like, does any of this sound gentle? None of this is gentle. I went from not teaching her like anything until she was 6 to then like, well, we're behind now. We got to cram it in. How stupid is that? I mean, starting a child out with unschooling does not really fit hand in hand with them joining a charter school. That's for sure. That funding really keeps you hooked in though, which is unfortunate. So what I decided was I want to build her confidence and I want to review. And we are not moving forward until she feels very confident about where she's at. It's time for me to meet my child and not meet her where she's not, you know? So we've had Explode the Code. We had it all last year. We had level 1. I would just have her do this like once a week just to break up the reading lessons because this is a little bit more fun for her. I have sort of heard that people have used this as just their core phonics curriculum. But I haven't heard it often. Usually when the program stops working, I just grab this for a week until we can figure out something else. And so she's about halfway through with this. We are going to do 2 pages a day for the next week or so until All About Reading 1 arrives in the mail. I don't even think the charter school has purchased it yet. And I know it takes a lot of prep work. So we're going to do this. She'll probably even maybe come close to finishing this up. And then I have Explode the Code 2 ready for her when she's there. You know, I will give you an example of where she's comfortable at with her reading. Okay, so this is definitely getting easy for her. And this I would imagine is like kindergarten level. I'm learning all this now. I had no idea what kids were learning. But this is what she's she's very comfortable with this. She can read. She also got really tired of doing the illustrations on these, so I don't make her. I stopped making her. She's comfortable. She's not comfortable, but she can read things like Jim had some muffins, but some of his muffins are missing. Jim runs to his mom in the den. Are there some muffins in there? She's getting more comfortable with sight words. She's getting more comfortable with 2-syllable words. So again, though, I just want to build her confidence, you know? And I think this really helps because she's still sounding out words in this. Like she would still sound out the word den, you know, D-N, den. So she's still sounding out CVC words. I have to back up, right? Okay, so we're waiting for All About Reading 1 to arrive. I'm going to assemble it. I am likely not going to do the whole program. I really do think that she is to the point where she could probably do the last third of it before getting into All About Reading 2. If any of you out there disagree with this, please let me know. Like, I'm open to hearing suggestions. But I'm thinking that will probably be good enough for her. A couple of things that I want to mention that I haven't yet or I kind of missed. I did get her the Montessori Pink series. Midway through first grade, when I realized that Words I Can Build from Simply Charlotte Mason was not working, I got her the Pink series, which I found for free online. It comes with way more than this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but it is a CVC phonics. I don't even want to say program. I'm just going to call it a resource because it doesn't come with any kind of like curriculum. It just comes with the resources. And then I printed everything on cardstock. I cut everything out. I laminated each piece. I have our movable alphabet, which they used for all of this. So you would have them build the words, or this is great for learning how to spell CVC words. There are a ton of different activities that come with this. My problem with this though was that there was no instruction, and that's not my strong suit. You know, I need something that's somewhat put together for me, somewhat scripted. So I was already feeling so insecure about teaching her how to read that I just didn't feel comfortable using this. I think that I will feel a lot more comfortable with my son because now I've definitely used it a handful of times and I'm finding all the different ways to do it. But I didn't use it a lot with her when I first got it. A resource I have loved using is this little, I think it's called a link board or like a syllable board. It's from Jack and Link, which is a small company. I think it's owned by some homeschool parents. It's a really high quality, whatever you call this. And then it's got a really beautiful wood frame. It comes with a few different sticks for moving. So when we're working on a word like muffin, I will break it into 2 parts for her so that she can, and move this along so that she can more easily decode the word. We use this a lot. I pull this out for almost every reading lesson for her, just in case there's a 2 or 3 syllable word. And it's really helpful. I've really come to use this thing a lot. I've started purchasing early readers. We started out with these level A nonfiction sight word readers. I think these are like a Montessori resource, but they're from Scholastic, and they come in a bigger box. Like they come with many of these. I like them because they are repetitive, like be kind to bees, be kind to flowers. And so she started out with these, and it's not that she could say all of the words, but the pictures help them decode the words, and they were repetitive. So these were a great way to start. She's too, I mean, I'd say she's beyond this, but also because like once you start realizing that's going to say the same words and you can look at the pictures, you're not really reading anymore. So I'll be moving on to my son with these when he's ready, but I think she's past that. I got the I Can Read Biscuit series of, I think I just got like 6 books. She started reading one of these last night. She really liked this book because the dog is very cute. So that is very helpful. I'm happy that she's not saying this is too babyish, because even though she's not reading a whole lot, she's still very mature for her age. And I was just working like, you can't find mature reading resources when they're not reading yet. You have to start here, you know? So she liked this. I also got her the I Can Read Phonics edition of Pinkalicious. She loves Pinkalicious. But even this, we read this one, even this was a little difficult for her. She hasn't learned like the word friend. She hasn't learned the word treasures, you know, like really is this level A1 beginning. So I do want to go off on a quick little tangent about readers. I've been really disappointed with what I have found at our library. I have found very little. And what's frustrating is that, you know, you've got Bob Books, which we also use. Bob Books is fantastic. And, you know, you can find a Bob book at a library, but you can't find level 1 readers that are at the level of those Bob books. These are way too hard. And I mean, it's level 1. Like what does 1 mean? Does it mean first grade? She's not going to read this. She's not there yet, and she wants to read books. So, and I cannot find books that are like this level at the library. And then I did get their level A kit. It's like a bag that has a bunch of books in it. And those were more her reading level. But that was only 6 books. You know, she went through those. They were done. So now I have to purchase all of these books, which I didn't really want to do. I honestly wanted to utilize our library and not use our school funds to buy a bunch of this stuff. So I've for sure been frustrated with the library. If anyone has any tips for how to find easy readers at a library, please let me know. And then I also wanted to mention a couple of the reading incentives that we've started in our homeschool, because those are really working. I will just kind of put a frame of the video here that I shot a couple weeks ago. I started a Mom's Snack Shack, which is somewhat healthy snacks. We don't eat a lot of junk food here, but they are snacks that my kids don't normally get. And so I keep this bin stocked. I've made these book tickets for them every time they read 5 minutes, or like an easy book on their own or on her own. She gets a book ticket. She also gets book tickets for her reading lessons. And she gets book tickets for doing Reading Eggs, which is an online kind of reading program. And then my son gets book tickets for read alouds and for Reading Eggs and for his reading lessons with All About Reading. That's been going really strong. And then they get at 11 o'clock, we take a break from school. They get to pick out their snacks from the snack shack with their tickets. And it's something they really look forward to every day. So that has been great. And it's really encouraged more reading. And then I'll show a picture here. I started a reading challenge with her. We decorated this poster board together, and for every 20 books that she reads, and I'm not talking like, you know, super, super easy stuff. You know, it's got to be a book like this, that for every 20, her and I can do a special thing together. And for this challenge, she wants to go to the salon and get like some fairy hair. Have you guys heard of this? She wants like some rainbow fairy hair. I don't know. But she is working hard on that challenge, and it's going well. All right, this is a long video. I knew it would be. I just want to end this video on a note about probably lightening up. She just started this, you know, a little over a year ago. And my God, you know, I just have been like pounding it into myself that she needs to learn how to read, and that, oh my God, now we're in second grade and that reading assessment was such a nightmare. And now when we get to the end of second grade, how is she going to, I mean, she's definitely, I shouldn't say definitely, but she's more than likely not going to be at the level of the end of second grade reading assessment. And they don't even matter. They really don't matter. Anyway, any words of encouragement are gladly accepted. And I'm just grateful to have a homeschool community here where I can talk all this stuff out. I really appreciate it. So have a great rest of your week, you guys, and I will see you soon.